There was a time in the 1970s in Britain when a little manufacturer better known for three-wheelers produced one of the oddest grand touring vehicles on the road instead of Jaguar, Triumph, or Aston Martin. The Reliant Scimitar had a sleek, contemporary, and even subtly futuristic appearance, yet its concepts were years ahead of what was considered normal in the automobile industry. It had a strongly devoted following, transported kings, and traveled across continents without complaint. Even so, hardly anyone discusses it outside of enthusiast groups these days. While lesser machines become legends, how could an automobile that was so capable, so appreciated, and so cleverly designed sink into near obscurity? To comprehend the Scimitar, you must travel back in time to post-war Britain, a nation attempting to re-establish its identity while contending with industrial strikes, unstable economies, and intense international rivalry. Britain's automobile sector was under tremendous strain by the late 1960s and early 1970s. In an attempt to survive, large manufacturers were merging into giants like British Leyland, relying more on scale than on innovation. Smaller businesses have to make the difficult decision to either innovate or go out of business. Reliant Motors worked in that environment. Reliant, which was most known for its affordable fiberglass cars, lacked the resources of large manufacturers but had something just as potent: engineering freedom. The company pursued innovative solutions that larger firms frequently overlooked, rather than chasing volume. This mentality gave rise to the Scimitar. The car, which was first released in the late 1960s and improved upon in the 1970s, took a unique route by using the shooting brake layout, which was a combination of an estate and a sports car. The Scimitar subtly provided both performance and utility at a period when these qualities were rarely paired. Families might still enjoy true grand touring capabilities while traveling long distances in luxury. Its creation was its most amazing secret. The Scimitar featured fiberglass panels mounted on a steel chassis, while competitors depended on heavy, rust-prone steel bodywork. This significantly decreased corrosion, which is a constant threat to British automobiles during wet winters. Owners found that the Scimitar frequently survived decades with its body intact, while other vehicles vanished around them. It was a pragmatic engineering philosophy that emerged out of necessity rather than just a style choice. Power came from reliable Ford V6 engines provided by Ford Motor Company, which gave the vehicle a level of dependability that many British rivals found difficult to match. It was an outstanding motorway cruiser thanks to its powerful torque, cozy ride, and long-legged gears. Drivers frequently referred to it as a comfortable, stable, and reassuringly mature long-distance partner rather than a sports car. However, the royal endorsement was arguably the most unexpected. Princess Anne was known to have possessed a number of Scimitars and to frequently drive them because she valued their functionality and performance. This connection provided the car legitimacy that no advertising campaign could match in a time when royal car selections quietly shaped public opinion. The Scimitar gained a subtly stylish following among professionals who preferred uniqueness to badges of prestige. However, underneath its advantages lay difficulties that would ultimately determine its destiny. The automobile was never able to attain economies of scale due to Reliant's low production capability. At its pricing point, build quality varied more than buyers anticipated, and interior refinement occasionally fell short of European competitors. As European manufacturing standards improved over the course of the decade, buyers began to notice the difference when comparing it to German imports. Then came the oil crisis in the early 1970s, which was partly caused by OPEC's choices. Large-engined Grand Tourers felt out of touch with shifting priorities as fuel prices skyrocketed overnight. Once lauded for their smooth performance, cars came to represent excess in a conservative economic environment. Once a selling point, the Scimitar's V6 engine now worked against it. Owners were nevertheless incredibly loyal. Many families utilized their Scimitars as daily vehicles, holiday transportation, commuter vehicles, and long-distance companions, rather than as weekend toys. There have been tales of automobiles traveling across Europe with children, baggage, and memories, and they have shown to be incredibly resilient over time. Decades before the concept would become popularized by contemporary crossovers, the rear hatch and folding seats enabled adaptability. Enthusiasts frequently recall a pivotal event that showcased the car's genuine personality: endurance drives across Britain without any mechanical problems. The Scimitar just continued, but more ostentatious sports cars demanded continuous attention. It was trustworthy in a way that created enduring devotion but rarely made headlines. The owners talked on trust rather than speed. Ironically, its declining reputation might have been influenced by that practicality. The Scimitar was never opulent enough to rule executive markets or wild enough to become a racing legend. It occupied a midway position, being both very competent and challenging to classify. Balanced designs are often overlooked in the celebration of extremes in automotive history. Economic pressures increased as the end of the 1970s drew near. Smaller manufacturers were severely impacted by rising production costs, increased safety regulations, and changing consumer preferences. Although Reliant kept improving the Scimitar, the market shifted towards sporty hatchbacks and practical saloons. Instead of specialized grand tourers, buyers preferred affordability and fuel efficiency. Although the company lasted longer than most people anticipated, the Scimitar's era ended gradually due to shifting times rather than a design flaw. Fiberglass bodies were unable to shield it from the realities of the market. The car's production slowed, its fan base shrank to a select few, and it quietly faded from the public consciousness. Its legacy is surprisingly up to date, though. Decades ago, the Scimitar investigated the concept of fusing performance with everyday utility, which is the foundation of modern performance estates and lifestyle cars. It foresaw a future buyer who was not yet aware of their desires. Examples that have survived to this day tell a different tale than the one that history frequently repeats. Owners keep them for connection, not prestige. The long bonnet, spacious cabin, and unique profile harken back to a time when British engineers dared to try new things with little funding. Driving one is more like rediscovering a well-considered answer to practical motoring needs than it is like operating a vintage sports car. Perhaps the greatest secret of the Reliant Scimitar is that it never tried to be a legend. It simply tried to be useful, comfortable, and quietly innovative. In doing so, it won devotion rather than fame. And sometimes, those are the machines that leave the deepest impressions, not the loudest, but the ones that dutifully accompanied ordinary lives through exceptional decades as the years pass. The Scimitar stands as a reminder of a uniquely British approach to engineering. Inventive, slightly unconventional, and guided by practicality rather than prestige. For those who recall seeing one float past on a motorway or parked outside a family home, it evokes a time when individualism still had a place on the road. And perhaps that is why conversations about it continue today, shared by fans who understand that history is not just influenced by the most renowned automobiles, but also by the quietly great ones that served their owners well and asked for little attention in return. If stories like this bring back memories or help rediscover cars that history almost forgot, consider subscribing and joining future journeys into the machines that shaped motoring in ways few people ever noticed.